But this is what it looks like. Ace Your Life.
Asia.
It's my color, so I'm very proud of it. And I actually just recorded a couple of weeks ago, I recorded the audiobook.
Mm,
Um, and I narrated it myself, so I was really happy about that too. I wanted it to have like a personal touch to it. So yeah, the book really is about stuckness, and I really talk about it and frame it that way because if you follow this method, you'll be able to work through your stuckness. So that's kind of what I'm all about. I really try to help people and really be where they're at.
like like where sometimes the words say where he takes us where we're at, where we was in sin and we was doing this and that, and but he still took us for what he's at. So I like that analogy that you use. One thing that you said too when you started off procrastination, I think that's a good one that a lot of people do, even myself. You procrastinate, knowing that you had some things to do, and you put it off, and you put it off, and you put it off to the point sometimes you just leave it together all alone and then just come back years later like, man, I should have did this a long time ago. As you being an author, myself, sometimes we begin writing. I know myself began writing and then put it down. And, sometimes you don't get back to it until later on down the line, like I should have been done that. So I know what you mean about procrastination because I am a victim of that.
A lot of excuses and rationalizations that we make, right? There's so many different barriers that get in the way of that. If I sat here and I said, why do you think you procrastinate? Where does that come from? I'm sure you could tell me, right?
Mm,
So, or maybe not. And
yeah,
maybe that's why it's so hard to get through the stuckness because you're not aware of why it is that you procrastinate, right? So much of it also is subconscious.
mm,
So much of it is routine or habit. We don't even know why we do things sometimes. I had just recently, I had this interchange with a friend of mine, and he said something to me that was hurtful, and I got hurt. I felt hurt and wounded. And I said to him, like, where was that coming from? Like, I want you to understand like where that came from because then I don't feel safe. I'm worried it's going to happen again. And he's like, I don't know. I go, well, that's a problem
mm,
for me,
yeah.
because if you're not aware of it, it's very likely that you're going to repeat that behavior,
Yeah.
and that doesn't really feel safe for me. So I
Mm,
need like that may be something you really want to be working on because that's going to like trickle over in other relationships. It's not going to just happen with me. And
yeah.
of course, long and behold, it does because that's just the way it is.
Yeah. So you work
So
on
we don't realize sometimes, even like habits that we get ourselves into, it just becomes a habit. We don't even realize it. It's just the way it is.
yeah. And
So there's a lot to work on.
one thing about habits, they're hard to break once you start
Yes.
it. It's hard to break it. Then again, we procrastinate as we talked about earlier, and we make excuses on why we're doing
Yeah.
this or why this, happening or why I can't stop smoking or things of that nature. So yeah, so
Yeah.
I think that all ties hand in hand. And like you said, a lot of times a lot of it we have to work with ourselves and identify the things that's going on with us. But as you alluded to earlier, sometimes we don't even notice what we're doing. It takes
Correct.
somebody else to notice our miscues, and bring it to us. Like, hey, you need to, you like you told him, you need to change that.